on American Family Radio.
Welcome back. And as we are just days away from the 2024 election, there are already reports of various problems with voting security going on, and this coming from trendingpoliticsnews.com. New Colorado Secretary of State is under fire after posting passwords for voting machines. So on Tuesday, this according to the report, an online spreadsheet inadvertently was posted by the Colorado Secretary of State's office. The spreadsheet contained a tab with BIOS passwords critical to the security setup of the state's voting machines. The discovery was announced in an email from the vice chair of the Colorado Republican Party, which explained that the passwords were found by an unnamed individual who accessed the spreadsheet and used the quote-unquote unhide function in Excel. The person's identity was concealed in the affidavit circulated by the party. Of course, the Colorado Secretary of State has said in a very fiery interview with 9 News Denver that you can, I reposted that on my X account, and you can, of course, watch that wherever you can access that interview. She was asked directly by the reporter, who is no friend to the Republican Party in Colorado, if she would resign over this, and she said no. But the Colorado Republican Party is calling for her resignation, and former State Representative Dave Williams, who is the chairman of the Colorado GOP, joins me now. So, Dave, what's going on in Colorado? And good morning.
Good morning. Nothing good. I mean, I hope this dispels the myth that we have the, quote, gold standard of election processes and systems in Colorado. She should resign. This is disgraceful. And I want to point out the hypocrisy and double standard here, because there was another sort of infamous Colorado politician by the name of Tina Peters that she went after viciously over a similar incident. But, the difference here is Tina was accused and convicted of publishing sensitive information out of one county, Mesa County. And here, Jenna Griswold is definitely guilty through her own admission of having published 63 different counties, over 600 passwords with respect to, thousands of voting machines. This is certainly something that she needs to be held accountable for and potentially even prosecuted for, because that was the same standard she applied to Tina. It's disgraceful, and it certainly does threaten our elections, and puts into question potentially many of these results that are going to be close on Tuesday.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right to make that comparison, Dave Williams, because it was only earlier this month or late last month. I mean, just a few weeks ago that that Tina Peters was sentenced to close to a decade in prison for her actions in giving some of these passwords away from for her position as a county clerk. And yet we see that the Secretary of State's office, and they're saying inadvertently, but however it happened, the passwords were on and accessible to people outside of their office. And so it's absolutely wild to me that the Secretary of State is not stepping down over this. And of course, there is a party difference, right? The Secretary of State currently is a Democrat. Tina Peters is a Republican. So if we see that there isn't the same treatment, what does that indicate to you as far as potentially the hypocrisy here in, where it should be a nonpartisan issue to say that election integrity matters?
Oh, I think it's at least one of two things. One thing is that what Tina did and what the secretary accused Tina of doing really wasn't that big of a deal, number one. Or it is a big deal, and she just doesn't want to face the music. She doesn't want to be held accountable. In either event, there's really a miscarriage of justice going on here, and we should not stand for it, and we should be demanding the Attorney General, Phil Weiser, who's also a Democrat, to do his job and prosecute and hold her to the same standard, or the Denver District Attorney, who would have jurisdiction over Secretary Griswold, to do the same. But she's also a Democrat, and I just don't foresee that happening unless we fight and push for it, because we shouldn't be having these two sets of rules. It looks an awful lot like Democrats are more than willing to weaponize law enforcement and the judicial system against their opponents, and it smells like it's happening here. The other thing I'd point out about Jenna Griswold is that she wasn't going to disclose any of this to the county clerks or to the public. The only reason she did was because we caught her, and we put it out there, and that, I think, was the most telling thing, that she admitted to Kyle Clark. In my estimation, and I think a lot of people are going to agree with this is shaping up to be a cover-up as well. I mean, there's not only the breach, but the fact that she knew it for about 5 days before we exposed it, and she wasn't telling anyone and quietly doing what she was doing, tells me that she was trying to cover her tracks, and that's also something that we need to tackle and hold her accountable for.
So in that 5-day period, when she wasn't disclosing it, was that hidden tab still up there, and then she didn't, and her office didn't actually pull that down until your report?
No, I think they actually did catch it, and I discreetly did something about it. But the hidden tab, that was up for at least a couple of months. So
Oh, wow.
they weren't aware of it. Then they became aware of it, discreetly took it down. We exposed them. And then we just found out yesterday that I don't think any of the passwords had been changed until we had publicly, come out with it through our own efforts. So it just goes to show you that incompetence or maliciousness, whatever the case may be, she's unfit to serve, and she needs to go.
Well, and so to your knowledge, Dave Williams, and he is the chair of the Colorado GOP, my special guest this morning, is there an investigation into what exactly happened and why this tab was up there for so long?
The secretary claims that she's doing her own internal investigation and blames it on
Right.
A former member of her personnel. But we don't know, and that's sort of the problem. We're calling for the legislature. We're certainly asking, prosecutors potentially to do their own independent investigation. I think even Kyle Clark alluded to that. Maybe should be happening, but right now I think everyone's kind of scrambling to figure out how to handle this, especially with less than a week before a major election. The troubling thing about all this is Jenna wanted those Mesa County machines to be decertified when this happened in the Tina Peters incident. So it begs the question: do we need to start decertifying all the different machines in 63 or 64 counties? I mean, the answer from her office is no, and I think it's probably a matter of inconvenience as opposed to, just doing what's right. But I mean, this is such a we've never had this kind of issue before, and again, it just speaks to the need for her to resign. If she's not going to resign, at least recuse herself from overseeing any of the election systems in 5 days from now.
Yeah, and it just seems, to me as somebody who's now in Florida, so I have no personal stake other than what obviously the country does in terms of wanting election integrity in every state. But it seems to me that for Colorado, holding themselves up as kind of the gold standard of election integrity, to have this kind of cloud of controversy. If there are any contested results, I mean, this just muddies the waters in terms of, being able to say, hey, everything went smoothly, went accurately, went according to the law and the process. And so you would think, even if it is inconvenient, that they would want to ensure that the public has confidence in the results. And and what we're seeing from at least some of the polls and some of the sources, Dave Williams, is that Colorado may actually be trending a little bit more red than the last couple of cycles. I hope that's true in terms of conservatives getting out and voting their values. And so what do you think in terms of where Colorado as a whole is at in terms of some of those polling numbers?
Yeah, no, I think that's correct. We are going to perform better than we have in the last two cycles. It's becoming very apparent, especially as the Democrats begin to implode. I think it might be a stretch for us to flip the state, but we're going to certainly do better. But stepping back and looking at the larger scheme of things, I think what the danger, or at least the lesson that should be learned for at least the Trump campaign in the swing states is, look, check into this, because we stumbled upon this issue. We weren't searching for this. We came across it because there was an interested whistleblower that discovered it late within the process. God knows that this could be happening in Pennsylvania, Arizona, Wisconsin, any of the swing states, that inadvertently passwords were posted. And I don't know if you saw, there's a piece from former gubernatorial nominee Heidi Ganahl out of Colorado, where she discovered that the machines could be accessed remotely, and she proved it. And so when you combine that fact with leaked passwords that do grant you access to those machines, and the ability to manipulate, it's a very scary thought. So someone needs to be looking into the swing states to make sure this didn't happen, because it certainly happened here. And with the stakes so high, I wouldn't be surprised if any of this was intentional or malicious.
Wow. Well, we'll certainly be looking at Colorado and what else is going on there in the days leading up to the election, but then also after the fact. I mean, there, according to my sources and what I'm hearing, there may not be a winner even declared on election night, which will be very interesting. But Dave Williams, always appreciate you joining, and thanks so much for your work in Colorado. We always appreciate having you on, and these types of reports are important to cover. And of course, the left has said that election integrity isn't an issue that anybody should be talking about, and they want to cancel you, do all kinds of things if you even raise some of these sorts of questions. And so I'm glad that in Colorado, the GOP is looking at this and just wanting the truth. We should always be fact finders and truth seekers, and demand that those who are the regulators ensure that the process and the law is followed. I mean, that should be a nonpartisan issue, but unfortunately, in 2024 and the age in which we live, it's become anything but a nonpartisan issue. I mean, even voter ID. It's like I have to have an ID to do literally almost anything in this country except going out to vote, and that's absolutely ridiculous in most states, at least. And the left doesn't want to make you prove who you are. Why is that? I wonder. Well, anyway, if you have not gotten out and voted yet in your state, look at your ballot, be an informed voter, but most importantly, get out and vote, and also encourage your friends and family to do the same. We have to participate in this election so that we can select and prefer our leaders, we can pray for them, and we can ensure that all of these terrible ballot measures like Amendment 3 and 4 in Florida fail. And we'll be back tomorrow with more here on Jenna Ellis in the Morning. You can reach me and my team, Jenna at afr.net.